So I guess this answers the question on if they'll ever make a Taken on Ice. Cold Pursuit stars Liam Neeson in a role where he has a particular set of snowplowing skills. When his son apparently dies of a heroin overdose, Liam Neeson doesn't think that's actually the case. He thinks he was murdered, so he takes it upon himself to take his sawed-off shotgun and take matters into his own hands and take care of the dudes who killed his son. Taken style. Well, not exactly, but... So yes, we can laugh and joke and play games and all this about Liam Neeson being a typecast, essentially doing Taken all over again, because that's pretty much what Cold Pursuit is. But it is a little bit more than that, but not by much. And if you start comparing the two, you're bound to hate this movie. And I'll be honest with you, it's not the best movie in the world. It'll probably fall off your radar before it even gets there, because it's not super special. It advertises itself as a black comedy, but it's barely even that. Let's get into it. The people category goes over acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry. The scores for those can be seen below. I would say for the most part, this category is cinematically monotonous, meaning it's neither great, it's neither bad, it's somewhere middle ground and completely forgettable. I appreciate that they casted Liam Neeson in the role since it seems to be written for him, but he's the only one I feel that for, and I also like the fact that he's slightly memorable. Basically, he's got the high-vis jacket that he's wearing, as well as the sawed-off shotgun for his weapon of choice, which makes him slightly memorable, but in the long run, you're probably gonna forget it all. Add it all up, the people category gets 12 out of 20 possible stars. That's only 60%. As far as the writing goes, you're talking about the dialogue, the balance of the film, the story depth, originality, and how interesting it is. All the scores for that can be seen down there as well. In general, writing of the movie, not the greatest, could be better, but just isn't. At first you think it's just trying to be fun, but then it kind of drags on a little bit, as I'll talk about in the narrative arc section. The foundation for the film's writing is just weak, because when it comes down to it, you got a group of characters. You have Liam Neeson, you have the main bad guys, and you have Native American bad guys. And they're all, the main bad guys and the Native American bad guys are kind of fighting each other on a turf war thing. You don't care so much about the whole Native American side, because you really do just want it to be a fun movie where Liam Neeson is just attacking these bad guys. And that's not exactly what you get, and because it focuses so much on these two bad guys, on their turf war side story, you start to lose focus a little bit, because it's not that interesting. You don't really care about the story. It's not a very fantastic story. It just is what it is. Liam Neeson's character has a mission to avenge his son's death. So he goes after one guy. And the one guy's like, I was hired by this other guy, so he goes after the other guy. And the other guy's like, I was hired by this other guy. And then Liam Neeson goes after him, and it's just this leapfrogging thing going on that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the end of the day. So I wish it was more concrete. I wish the audience was more clued in onto what's ultimately happening. But because they're not, the writing just isn't there completely. So adding all that up, you get 3 out of 10 possible stars, so that's 30%. Behind the scenes goes over the visuals, the cinematography, the editing, the advertisement, and the music and sound. For the most part, nothing is that great here. Everything is typical, standard, what you would expect from any other movie in the world. It just doesn't stand out. The only thing that does is a little bit of the music, actually. And I think that has to do with the fact that it is a black comedy, so they have some of this lighthearted music going on with some of this deeper, serious, suspenseful elements and action happening at the same time. And those two things combined does make it feel like a weird comedy, which is what a black comedy is sometimes. Other than that, I basically call this a very standard, typically done behind-the-scenes process. So this gets 7 out of 10 possible stars, 70%. So the narrative arc structure goes over the introduction, inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and resolution. A lot of people, when they think about the narrative arc, they think of it as a 3-act structure, which most movies do have. The reason why I lay it out the way I do is it just has more to do with how I score things. More specifically, anyways. Cold Pursuit clearly has a 3-act structure, and the best act is the first one. The second one dies out really quickly because it's talking about all that story that I talked about you don't care about. So all this Native American drug dealer versus drug dealer feud, turf war thing, it doesn't interest you, and you just want it to get back to what it was doing best, and it just doesn't. Even the third act, which is a little bit better than the second act, lost a bit of its spirit that it started off with. So as far as this goes, in general, everything else done just fine, blah, blah, blah. 8 out of 10 possible stars, 80%. The entertainment category is next. That goes over how rewatchable it is, how much of a good time you have while watching, your impulse to buy or own it, your impulse to talk about or recommend it, and if it's engaging or riveting. When I'm looking at the entertainment category, the main thing I'm looking for is a score of 5 out of 10 at most. That usually means it's perfectly entertaining, it's fine. If it's a score of 10 out of 10, my socks are blown off, my jaw's on the ground, my mind is trying to work itself back into place. Long story short, Cold Pursuit is near those. It's 1 out of 10 because the only thing that grabbed my attention was the first act when there's actually the action going on, where it's actually feeling like a whole lot of fun, where you're like, oh yeah, this is Liam Neeson being Liam Neeson, and I don't care if he's typecast. That's what it's all about. You see that in the first act, and then everything else is boring. It just doesn't captivate you. It doesn't make you feel like you're gonna miss something if you pause it or look away. It has none of that. You don't care to own it. You don't care to talk about it. You don't care to recommend it. You probably will never rewatch it a day in your life again. So that's the reason why this got 1 out of 10, 10%. The specialty category, what do you expect to see out of the film? So first of all, Liam Neeson. I'm a fan. I know there's a ton of fans out there as well. How does it do in that regards? I think for the most part, he does okay. But this movie is going to be completely lost on your radar, and you won't even really care about the fact that it is Liam Neeson or that he is sometimes good in it. It just won't matter to you. So I'm going to give this 0 out of 10 possible stars. The next thing that's going to come up to your mind is it looks a lot like Taken. Is it like Taken? Yes and no. Obviously, the general gist of the film is very much like Taken. The way it's executed, not so much. It's not as engaging. It's not as exciting. It's very empty, actually, as far as that goes. If you're going to compare the two, you're definitely going to go after Taken and not this one. So this gets 5 out of 10. Next up, because it's Liam Neeson, because it looks like Taken, you're expecting a lot of freaking great action. And I'll tell you something. There's barely any action in it at all. I mean, he dons a sawed-off shotgun, which he uses a few times, but it's not in action sequences. He doesn't really fight off people. It's more of a slow burner. So as far as action goes, I will say 0 out of 10. Halfway decent. Did they make the movie that they intended to make from the get-go? Because if they did, that deserves its own praise. And guess what? I think for the most part, they had fun making their movie. I think this is exactly what they wanted the movie to be. And it is what it is. And that deserves its own praise no matter what you think of the movie. This gets 10 out of 10. Altogether, the specialty category gets 15 out of 40 possible stars. If we add up all those points, we get 46 out of 100 possible stars. 46%. Which in general means it's a rotten score if you're looking at it like Rotten Tomatoes. But it is what it is. Guys, tell me what you think of Cold Pursuit in the comments down below. And for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me. Hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. Tell your friends about it. Like, do whatever. You know, just do you. And then I'll see you next time, guys. Peace out.